Punch-Out! A David vs. Goliath type series about an underdog fighting his way through dozens of monstrous opponents from all across the world. It's also one of the hardest non-RPG Nintendo series ever made. So today I'm going to rank every single fight from easiest to hardest. I'll be including every single fighter from every game from 1984 to 2009, with the only exclusion being Gigamac because he's controlled by a second player, and Mr. Dream because he's literally just Mike Tyson. Now, with all that said, let's step into the ring one last time and rank every single Punch-Out fighter in existence, from easiest to hardest. Man, I feel kinda bad for Gabby J. He's technically far superior to his younger counterpart with faster attacks, less stun time, an upgraded taunt punch, and a healing move. That said, it's not him that makes it easy, it's you. Super Little Mac is far superior to regular Little Mac, mainly because he has no stamina to worry about, meaning you could just kinda mash and you'll probably beat Gabby. While most fighters have a way to counter this, Gabby doesn't, meaning you could just kinda wail on him without even having to see most of his attacks, which sucks, because he's far superior to his mentor. That said, he fails to be harder than any of Joe's fights in my opinion, and is not only the easiest fighter in this game, but the easiest fighter in the series.
Hey Squidward, do you know who Joe is?
I do not know who Joe is. Tell me.
Glass Joe. What do I say about this fight that hasn't already been said? Well, I guess I could say it's hard, I doubt anyone's ever said that. The fact that you can beat this guy in one punch should say everything you need to know. His guard is terrible, his attacks are weak and slow, so slow in fact that the only way I could see a new player losing is by getting winded and dodging too early. He's a star generator, he gives a ton of stun, he doesn't even attack for the first 40 seconds of the fight, his taunt leaves him completely open, and most offensively, if you time a counter just right, he goes down instantly and doesn't get back up. Everyone knows this guy is the easiest, so why should I even continue talking about him? Is anyone actually surprised? He has 3 attacks, a taunt that leaves him completely open, a ridiculous stun time, atrocious defense, horrible damage output, and no durability. That said, because of the way this game works, I do think most people will lose to Joe at least once, but as soon as you understand the engine, you can dunk on this guy in less than a minute. Moving on.
We're not waiting an hour and a half for impressions of France, okay? Eat a baguette and lose a world war. That's my impression of France. Let's go to Space Mountain.
Do I even need to say anything? I've yapped long enough about Glass Joe and his other 2 fights, so I'm not even gonna give him the respect he probably deserves, and make this quick. He has a jab and a hook, both of which are slow, a taunt which gives you an instant knockdown if you counter it, and an instant knockout if you counter it with a 3-star punch. He also gives plenty of opportunities for star punches and has long stun periods. Moving on.
It's fucking Fortnite und trink Cola! Yippee!
Von Kaiser is frustrating. His attacks are actually pretty fast for a second opponent, and he does decent damage. Yes, he gets instantly knocked down if you hit him with the star punch while he's stunned, but getting stars off his jabs is actually pretty different from Mike Tyson's, and his uppercut has a pretty tight counter window. So why is he number 29? The taunt. Why this taunt even exists is beyond me, but a 3-star punch into his taunt is an instant knockout, and that drags this guy down far. If it weren't for the stupid taunt, he would definitely be higher, but as is, he's much more pathetic to his NES variant. He's a has-been, I guess.
Yeah, our major export is roses, bulls, and wimpy fucking boxers!
I bet you all were expecting Von Kaiser next, huh? But no, Don Flamenco, hailing from Madrid, Spain, has all of 1 attack. The whole gimmick here is he won't use it until you provoke him. You attack him, he counters, you dodge and punish. Not just that, but if you knock him down twice in less than an in-game minute, he's not getting back up, and that's not hard to do. Also, star punches are an instant knockdown, but they are a bit hard to get, and he can dodge if you spam them too much. That's the only reason he's not dead last. He's honestly one of the harder early game bosses to speedrun. That's something he shares with his rematch, which we will get to, because he has the biggest difference in difficulty between his first fight and his second fight. That said, if you lose to the first fight more than once, you might need to join a retirement home because you clearly have dementia. Disco Kid. What do I say about Disco Kid? He has a jab, a hook, and 2 taunts. Plenty of other fighters give you a lot of stars, but it's incredibly noticeable with this guy in particular. You're just drowning in stars. Yes, his hook is one directional, but that doesn't matter much when he only uses it from one side. The only thing he has in his favor is he's pretty unorthodox, but the main reason he's not dead last is because he's going up against 2 of the easiest fighters in the entire fucking franchise. Not even a fourth of the way in, and we already have a hot take. Piston Hurricane is very similar to Gabby J in that he's technically superior to his Mike Tyson's counterpart, but Super's Little Mac is just too powerful. His Hurricane Rush is a lot harder conceptually than the Honda Rush, and his attacks are decently fast, but it's incredibly easy to just mash. In fact, this guy is easily the easiest fighter to speedrun in the entire game. The only thing saving him is the fancy footwork phase, because he has an actual Punisher if you try to counter his taunt. But that attack is only in one phase, which will probably be over in a few seconds anyway. Bear Hugger is surprisingly hard for a second fighter. His attacks are decently strong, and his defense is pretty tight. If you try to punch his gut, he'll taunt you, and if you try to punch his face, he'll block and counter with a bear hug, which, while not nearly as devastating as any of the other iterations, is definitely his most powerful attack. That said, once you know his bear hug exists, you can take advantage of it. If you counter his bear hug with a flurry, you get a whopping 7 punches, which will do a lot of damage. His other attacks are also just very basic, meaning he's essentially just has one attack, but hey, at least he has good defense.
Now this is a very long chocolate bar. This won't be the first time I put something long and brown in my mouth.
Alright, for our last F-tier fighter, we have Doc Lewis's warm-up mode. Now, his attacks are actually pretty strong, and stars are a bit harder to get. He's also a King Hippo style bout where one knockdown is a win. The main problem here is he telegraphs his attacks by literally telling you what to do. I understand why though. This is supposed to be a tutorial fight after all. That's honestly the only problem with this fight, because other than that, this fight ain't that bad.
I asked a German girl for a number, and I'm currently waiting for the rest. So far, all I have is 9.
Alright, now we can talk about Von Kaiser. Moving up into D tier, Von Kaiser hailing from Berlin, Germany is a very, very low D tier. It was teetering more than a penny on a needle, but it was leaning slightly more to the side of D tier. Von Kaiser may only have a jab and an uppercut, but they're decently fast, although very predictable, especially with his weird head shake. His defense is also very lacking, and he's an absolute star generator. Not only that, but the stars are an instant knockdown if you use them in stun, making him very vulnerable. Now, you might be wondering why this guy isn't an F tier, and that's because his punches are decently fast for a second opponent, and he doesn't give out free stars until a bit later in the fight. So to a new player, Von Kaiser seems like a genuine threat, until they realize you can block the jabs. God damn it! Being able to block the jabs is what made me want to give this guy a high F tier, but I knew deep down he didn't deserve it, because despite this German juggernaut being out of his prime, he still has just enough to give you a temporary taste of what he was like in his glory days.
Alright, you get 3 wishes, but there's 3 rules. No bringing anybody back from the dead, no making anybody fall in love with you, and I can't kill nobody. Wish spiders had wings. There's 4 rules.
Top ranked in the major circuit, my ass. Great Tiger sucks. I may have been throwing around the phrase star generator in this video so far, but this guy's a star generator. His jabs are telegraphed by the jewel on his turban blinking, and hitting him with a jab when his jewel blinks gets you a star. The problem arises after he stops throwing the jabs and starts throwing uppercuts. All his uppercuts give you stars, and it's all he does, over and over again, since his super move is timer based. Said special move has him flying around the screen and punching you. But honestly, this is just a fancy party trick done with smoke and mirrors. It's just a Honda rush. Block 5 punches and he'll just stand there stunned. Better yet, if you punch him while he stands there, he goes down instantly, but does get back up. The only thing keeping him out of F tier is how disorienting his special move is, but that's really about it. Bob Charlie can be summed up in 4 words. All style, no substance. All of his attacks have good presentation, but they're all just basic. Take the jive uppercut, for example. It's just an uppercut with a long windup. Or hey, look at the double hook. It's pretty fast, has a tight dodge window, and can't be countered. You can just do nothing and you'll block it. The only thing putting him above the others so far is that he'll move around a lot, dodging your punches and supers, which makes him one of the harder early game bosses to speedrun. But yeah, he's really not difficult at all.
I'm literally going to start a podcast, and every single episode is me talking about how hippos are better than elephants. Bro is defending his people.
Your King Hippo is a surprising jump in difficulty. He has the same gimmick of only being able to stun him when he opens his mouth, but there's a problem with that. He opens his mouth after every attack, pretty much nullifying the gimmick. That said, he has one trick to balance it out. He has a new attack called the Hippo Hug. Said Hippo Hug has him back up, raise his arms, then slam you with an ear clap. That said, this attack is a double-edged sword. It does do a lot of damage, but there's also a lot of different ways you can deal with this attack. You can just dodge and punish, but that's boring. His mouth is open after all, so you can punch him in the face and wail on him. That said, his face isn't the only place he leaves open. You can also punch him in the stomach to completely disintegrate his entire health bar. Well, shit. Don't worry, you can just counter the Hippo Hug again, and he gets instantly knocked out. Though, if you want to streamline the process, you can duck the ear clap and star punch him to get an instant knockout. You can also get stars by blocking his jabs and punching him in the gut. The big problem with this fight that makes him easier than the NES fight is how little damage he does compared to his NES incarnation. While his NES incarnation could just delete half your health bar with one overhead, this version can't even do half of that. Even his ear clap just does around 40 damage. The other 2 minor circuit champions in the series can delete your whole health bar with their special attacks, meanwhile this guy is using his special attack and praying you don't take advantage of it. Hopefully the major circuit is an improvement. Speaking of, I've heard a lot of people say Piston is easier than Hippo, which for the life of me I can't agree with. Piston is definitely easier than his NES incarnation, and that's mainly because he telegraphs his attacks a lot more before throwing them. While he's a bit more reserved with star opportunities, he balances it out by having 2 instant knockout tricks, much like Hippo. Counter his Hondo Rush with a 3-star punch, and counter his Bow Taunt with a 3-star punch. The main reason he's higher than King Hippo is because he doesn't give as much stun and as much stars, compared to King Hippo giving you 10 punches on average and a star after every single jab if you know how to get them. Piston won't even give you that much stun even when you deal with his Hondo Rush. Oh, speaking of which, his Hondo Rush has been severely nerfed, going from a barrage of punches that only stops when you block 4 of them, to a 3-punch combo ending off with a hook. Wow. Also, his counter window has been increased for whatever reason. Also, to end this entry off, I would like to clear up a misconception. Everyone says you shouldn't counter Hondo's taunt because he's respecting you, but I'm here to tell you that that's total bullshit. You see, in Japanese culture, while bowing is considered a sign of respect, that's only if you don't maintain eye contact. And since maintaining eye contact is disrespectful and Hondo does maintain eye contact, his bows are meant to be disrespectful. Remember that next time someone tries to make you feel bad for giving Hondo a sucker punch when he bows. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh, right, mid-fight.
Aaron rapidly intensifying into a rare Category 5 hurricane.
Piston Hurricane, hailing from Havana, Cuba, is pretty similar except with better defense, more damage, and his taunt leads into his classic Hurricane Rush. which requires you to alternate your guard. The problem is, aside from Rush, he doesn't really have anything new. He's just a bit faster and a bit stronger. So you shouldn't have too much trouble with him after beating Glass Joe.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Kid Quick, hailing from New York, USA, is a palette swap of Glass Joe with the same moves, but no taunt and a gimmick. His gimmick is he's pretty durable and doesn't give you a large window for stun. He also has amazing defense and will stall out the clock a lot. But if you can play evasive for long enough to fill your super meter, he's pretty much done. Unlike almost every other fighter, all of Kid Quick's attacks put him into a specific type of stun, where super punching him won't cancel the stun, so you can basically just wail on him. Don't get too cocky though, as he can still dodge your super punches, and will most likely counter right after. Needless to say, I have no idea how this guy is ranked higher than Bald Bull in the game.
I mean, dude's name is literally a combination of Glass Jaw and Average Joe.
It didn't take us long to get back to Glass Joe, huh? Now, oddly enough, some parts of this fight are easier? He gives you more stun, which is ridiculous. And aside from that, the main things that make this fight harder are things that apply to all rematches in the first game. One is that in title defense, you're only allowed 2 knockdowns instead of 3. This also applies to Super Punch-Out as well. 2. Attack acceleration. The more he hits you, the faster his attacks are, to the point where you basically need to anticipate. If you can't, you're fucked. But his attacks are the exact same and he still does no damage. So if you get into this kind of situation, you're just bad. And you shouldn't be this bad if you've made it this far, but you best not count out the little guy, otherwise he'll be champion in record time.
I grew up in Dublin. I was a potato farmer. Every night I would go to the pub. I would drink ale and dance jigs.
Jumping all the way to the world circuit, Aaron Ryan may seem difficult at first. He's fast, agile, and doesn't give you any opportunities to stun him, but as soon as Doc tells you to beat Aaron Ryan to the punch, everything falls apart. His counter windows are beyond generous, and if you counter his uppercut, he gives you a star. He also has a taunt where he literally asks you to hit him. He also has a headbutt, which may seem deadly at first, but it doesn't do much damage, like at all, and you can block it. That said, it has a unique property of forcing you to time your block, because if you block too early, it won't work. That said, if you can successfully block it, you can punch him to get a star, or hit him with a 3-star punch while he recovers to get an instant knockout. Also, for apparently having loaded horseshoes in his gloves, his punches are not that strong. He's also way too committed to relying on the lucky number. All his stun windows give you 7 punches, he always gets up on 7, and you can get an instant knockdown if you hit him with 7 star punches. How he even managed to get to the world circuit with an 18-10 record, literally worse than King Hippo, is beyond me, but hey, free win. Bear Hugger is honestly pretty similar to King Hippo in quite a few regards. He's a big boy who won't let you punch him in the gut unless he's stunned. He has an overhead, an ear clap, and traded out his jab for a hook. He also has a decent amount of HP and will get back up. He does taunt a lot, giving you plenty of opportunities for star punches, but said star punches won't do much if you use them individually unless you use one of the 5 instant knockdown tricks he has. Now, that might sound ridiculous, but all of them just boil down to counter his attacks or taunts with a star punch. And doing that isn't easy, because his attacks have pretty tight counter windows, and they do a good amount of damage, especially his Bear Hug. The Bear Hug does a whopping 50 damage, and he's not too reserved with using it, which makes it pretty difficult. That said, the reason he's in D tier is because his attacks are just too simple. Yes, the hook is one-directional, but much like with Disco, that doesn't mean shit when he only uses it from one side. And yes, the Bear Hug is strong, but it has an incredibly long startup, so unless you're trying to counter it, you shouldn't have any trouble with it.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Title Defense Mode has built up a reputation for being a collection of some of the hardest fights in the series, improving even the most pathetic fighters to be genuine threats. So, what happened? Seriously, what happened? Surrounded by 3 other massively improved fighters, Disco sticks out, and not in a good way. He's now taken up Jazzercise and has brought it into the ring. First off, missed opportunity to have him do dance fighting. Second off, despite apparently having a newfound rhythm, the only noticeable change is him constantly doing ASMR in the middle of the fight. I don't know what's worse, the way it feels like he's trying to seduce me, or the fact that it's working. All jokes aside, he has 2 new attacks. A hook from the left telegraphed by him doing jumping jacks, and he can also do multiple jumping jacks, meaning multiple hooks, and of course his fabled special attack. Von Kaiser had the devastating Blitzkrieg uppercut, and Disco Kid has the Disco Flurry? Oh man, that sounds really intimidating. I wonder what that is. You're a bitch. Ow. So you're telling me his special attack is 3 jabs. Something I've been dealing with since Piston Hondo. And what's even worse is if you hit him with a 3-star punch while he's winding this up, he goes down instantly. And need I remind you, this is the one new fighter we got in this game, and that you had nearly 15 years to make this game, and all you could come up with was a guy who likes disco? You could have added another Super Punch-Out rep like Masked Muscle, Piston Hurricane, Bob Charlie, Dragon Chan, Mad Clown, Hoy Corlo, or one of the Bruiser Brothers. Hell, you had plenty of other countries to make a character from. Need I remind you that we don't have a rep from Australia? But no, instead we get a guy who's into disco. That stereotype was dead before the first game in the series came out. Okay, sorry, I'm calm now. This guy pisses me off beyond belief. This fight is easy, and is easily the easiest and worst fight in title defense. Moving the fuck on. Bald Bull got quite the nerf. Yes, he has the bull charge, but he doesn't have his rolling jab, shuffle hooks, or anything that gives him personality. The bull charge is the only thing in this fight that makes Bald Bull, Bald Bull. The only new things he has are 2 combos, being a 3 jab combo ending with an uppercut, and a 2 uppercut combo. That said, good luck seeing these attacks because it takes ages to use them. The only thing he has is the bull charge, which is difficult to parry as usual, but unlike every other iteration, you don't even need to parry it. This fight does feel like a title bout, but it also definitely feels like a minor circuit title bout, and that's not a good thing for Bald Bull.
If you encounter a grizzly bear and try to run, they'll easily catch you.
We finally arrived at our first Super Punch-Out fighter. Bear Hugger, hailing from Salmon Arm, Canada, sets the stage perfectly for the ball-bustingly hard experience that this game will be. He shows off some of the new mechanics well, innovative attacks, ducking, and instant knockdowns. He only has a basic jab, hook, and uppercut for his first phase, but whenever he gets up from a knockdown, he throws an ear clap that you need to duck. Otherwise, it's an instant knockdown. However, if you dodge this, you'll get the same special stun I mentioned earlier with Get Quick, so it makes dodging it feel so good. A great first fighter, and probably the hardest one in the series. Unless you count Title Defense Glass Joe or some shit like that.
In Japanese culture, blank is considered very disrespectful. Alright, what's considered disrespectful? Oh, that one? Okay. The bombing of Nagasaki. Noel, why?
The minor circuit champion is here, and he takes us from low D tiers to low C tiers. Honda has a jab that he telegraphs by wiggling his eyebrows, a hook, and an uppercut. All these attacks are fast and strong, especially for the minor circuit champion. And yes, he does have a pattern, but that pattern can split into quite a few different branches. None of said branches, though, include the Honda Rush. This attack is timer based, and has him hitting you with jab after jab after jab. The only way to deal with it is to block it. Block 4 punches in a row, and you get a long stun. That's all he has, but that's all he needs. Also, unlike the 4 other fuckheads before him, in the list at least, not all of his attacks have counter windows. His uppercuts don't have a counter window. So if you try, you're just gonna get smacked. However, there's one problem with this fight that means he can't go any higher. If you time your punch right, you can counter the Honda Rush, which gives you an instant knockdown. That makes the Honda Rush something to anticipate rather than dread. A very solid fight indeed, but it just needed some time to bake. If only he had a rematch that improved the fight.
And this other dude just said world's largest pumpkin. You're a school bus. You look like the sun. Cheese ball build. You look like a bowl of mac and cheese.
Is this a hot take? I'm not quite sure. A lot of people seem to think this fight is really easy, but I feel like a lot of people seem to underrate King Hippo. This fight is more of a puzzle boss. He has 2 attacks, a jab and an overhead. And what you need to do is hit him when he opens his mouth. The thing that I think people have lost sight of that makes him so difficult is just how strong King Hippo is. Each individual overhead does a whopping 50 damage. Let me make sure you heard that right. This man's overheads, which are technically a normal attack, can chunk off half your health. Not even Tyson can do that. That makes it very risky to go for counters, but it's what you need to do. But the thing that makes everyone say this fight is easy is how large the window to hit him is. Another thing is if you wait exactly 3 minutes on the stat screen before starting the fight, you're pretty much guaranteed a 40-second knockout. Oh, speaking of which, once you knock King Hippo down, he's not getting back up. Much like any good puzzle, he knows not to overstay his welcome once you solve him. Great Tiger is a vast improvement from his NES variant, though much like that version, his attacks are decently basic. He has a jab, an uppercut, and a delayed uppercut. That said, Next Level Games made some major improvements to his attacks. His blinking jewel can now blink red, and if you try to hit him when it's blinking red, he'll teleport and counter. His uppercuts don't give you stars, which is by far the biggest improvement. Also, instead of a Honda Rush with the special effects turned up to 11, his special attack now has him making a clone of himself, sliding from left to right, and trying to attack you with a powerful uppercut. That said, you can counter this attack to get an instant knockdown, but you'll at least need to keep an eye out for who's going to attack first, because the clone is just there to throw you off. Honestly, that's the biggest problem with Great Tiger. If you couldn't counter his Magic Rush, or even if it had a tighter counter window, he would be quite a bit harder, maybe even B tier. That said, he's still a major glow up from his NES variant.
Red Bull gives you wings.
We have Bald Bull hailing from Istanbul, Turkey. He has a jab combo, which is basically just a free hit, 2 hooks, which are telegraphed with a hand shuffle, and his bull charge, which you can parry if you're good enough. That bull charge takes his fight from a gut check to forcing you to give him a gut check. This attack is also an instant knockdown, but if you manage to parry it, then he's the one getting the instant knockdown. Wait, you can just dodge the bull charge? Why?
We also do strength training. You make your legs strong, you can take on any opponent.
Hailing from Hong Kong, the country, not the city, Dragon Chan is here to kick ass. Literally. The main gimmick of this fight is none of his jabs will give you stun, so you'll need to find your way through his guard in order to do damage. The one attack that will give you stun is his kick, another attack that you need to duck, or you get knocked down. That said, it is piss easy to dodge because it is very telegraphed. So this fight might be a wall at first. He may take you to decision, but he's not too bad. Dragon Chan is the first fighter in this game to actually feel like a roadblock. He has his Dragon Kick, which is an instant knockdown, his Dragon Rush, which definitely requires you to pay attention, and his Dragon Rejuvenation, which heals him. That said, he gives way too much stun. Just from the first 3 punches, you can get a whopping 13 punches, which is more than enough to get a super. You can also use a flurry after both of his kick-based attacks, which basically guarantees him getting dizzy. I really wish this game had title defense because it would be great to see what this guy could do without the burden of dozens of hits worth of stun. Beggars can't be choosers though. Aaron Ryan is surprisingly similar to Piston Hurricane, only with faster attacks, less stun time, and much more HP. That said, if you can fill your super meter, he doesn't stand a chance. Aaron is the spiritual successor to the two arcade exclusive fighters, that being Kid Quick and Pizza Pasta. The Kid Quick part is how he takes very little damage unless you use supers, and the Pizza Pasta part comes after you manage to land a super on him. Now, this attack may seem like a guaranteed health and super meter loss, but you can actually just parry this attack when you see his hands jitter, which will put him into stun, and you can then use another super. And then he'll counter with another clinch, which you can parry, which will put him into stun, and then you can use another super, and then he'll counter with another clinch, which you can parry, which will put him into stun, and then you can use another super, and then he'll counter with another clinch, which you can parry. Do you see the problem here? While it may be difficult to figure out how to do this, once you do, this fight is piss easy. That said, much like Pizza Pasta, figuring out how to beat the boss is complicated enough to put this boss up here. Oh, and speaking of puzzle bosses... For being in the special circuit, Narcissus Prince is surprisingly easy. Much like Aaron, the main challenge is figuring out how to do damage. Despite being a boxer, he really doesn't like being punched in the face, so he'll do everything he can to guard it. That said, if he whiffs an uppercut or his triple hook, you can actually stun him and finally give him some retribution, in which case he'll drop the facade and start going ham. While enraged, he does more damage and is faster, but there's a problem. He stops trying to block his face, meaning you could just wail on him, and he'll only calm down when getting up from a knockdown or by the urging of his cornerman. That said, it's not likely his cornerman will get a hold of him before you knock him down because of how much damage jabs do. Seriously, a super to the face will do a whole sixth of his HP.
Oh no, he's hot!
Explain to me how we went from this to this. Okay, before we get into the fight, let's talk about the design. How are these two the same person? One is a pathetic little wimp who looks like he got shoved in lockers as a kid, and the other one looks like someone who you need to get your girl away from at all costs because he will steal her. Hell, he could steal me if he wanted to. Anyways, onto the fight. He goes from having one attack to having one of the most varied arsenals of any fighter in the game. He has a fast uppercut, a delayed uppercut, a hook from the right, his classic flamenco uppercut whenever you run out of stamina, and later on in the fight he has a jab he'll telegraph by clapping. That said, you can get stars off of all his attacks. You can parry his fast and slow uppercuts as well as his hook, and you can block his jab. Blocking a jab gets you a star? What's next? Am I gonna get a bonus for using a hammer to hit a nail? He also has an infinite if you time your punches while he's recovering from being knocked out of stun, and alternate what kind of punches you use. Hook, jab, jab. That said, don't get too cocky, otherwise... Oh no. Oh no. Don Flamenco without his toupee on is a monster. His attacks are stronger and faster, and he won't force you to provoke him before attacking. He also gives no stun and takes less damage. He only gets out of his rage state when either you or him get knocked down. The last thing he has is a triple hook, which will give you a star if you dodge all the hooks. That said, he only throws hooks from one side, and he'll only ever use them from the left. But that luxury won't last. Don Flamenco is a cocky bastard. But what would this fight be like if he got humbled? Well, we'll see in his title defense fight.
It's me, Mario. I eat the spaghetti and I have a big, beautiful mustache. Oh,
We're nothing like that.
We're not even halfway through the list and we're already at B-tier territory. Pizza Pasta, hailing from Napoli, Italy, has a few jab and hook combos, but that's about it, unless you provoke him. If you hit him with a jab, he'll counter with an uppercut or hook, and after a certain amount of time, he'll counter with a clinch and then immediately uppercut. In order to dodge it, you need to hold a direction while he's grabbing you. If you do, you'll dodge and get that same special stun, so it's basically a free knockdown because it lasts forever. Awesome! Honestly, the main difficulty here is finding out how to deal with the clinch, but that challenge alone would bump this up to at least a C tier. especially considering he does this really difficult rush after the clinch if he hits you with the uppercut.
I remember when they first invented chocolate. Sweet, sweet chocolate. I always hated it.
Doc Lewis's training mode is a surprising difficulty spike for Morma, or maybe I'm just bad. He has a fast uppercut that he'll now use alongside his normal uppercut, and he has a fast jab which is essentially a block check. He does more damage and gives less stun. That's about all the changes. Oh, yeah, and when he's low on HP, he'll eat a chocolate bar and go into his second phase. His second phase is a lot harder, having him throw more attacks and harder patterns. Overall, quite a jump in difficulty, but trust me, it gets a lot worse.
Helmet, 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 helmet! Helmet, 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 helmet!
Maybe this is a hot take, but Title Defense Glass Joe has always been a challenge for me. His timings are designed to work in tandem with each other just to screw you up. He has a fast jab, a fast hook, and a delayed hook. The delayed hook is timed just right to make you dodge early so that he can smack you when you get back to your neutral stance. He also has a side-switching jab, but you can just block that, so it's not really a problem. He also has his headgear, which is the main gimmick. It prevents you from punching him in the face unless you hit him with a star punch, which leads into the main problem with this fight. He has an infinite. When you star punch his headgear off, it'll turn yellow to signal when it's about to go back down. However, if you hit him in the gut when the headgear turns yellow, you get a star, which you can hit him with while he's recovering, which makes his headgear fly off his head, and you can just repeat this process over and over. That said, if you whiff the star punch at any point, he'll dodge and punish. And while his punishment doesn't do too much damage, that damage will add up over time, and fast. Masked Muscle is quite unorthodox, making him a decently finicky fighter. He also has some unique special attacks, including a headbutt that hits twice, an attack where he spits you with poison mist, making you see in mode 7 and disabling your ability to punch for around 15 seconds. He also has some decent combos, making him a great fight to lead into... Mr. Sandman, the Major Circuit Champion. Much like in Wii, he has some smart timings to throw you off and force you to utilize long dodges, and one of his special attacks has him using 3 jabs, with the last one hitting through your guard if you're blocking. He also has a Dreamland uppercut, but it's not nearly as powerful as the Dreamland Express. That said, once he gets up from his second knockdown, it's revealed that he was just holding back, so he takes off the restraints and goes whole hog. He'll now do his signature Dreamland Express as well as his jab combo. He also uses his attacks in very intricate patterns specifically designed to make you mess up. While he may have gotten a demotion, Sandman is still an amazing gut check.
But his true ace in the hole is how different he is to your puny American stylings and expectations.
Hailing from the USSR, Vodka Drunkinski is here to make you Apollo Creed, while he's Ivan Drago. Was that cringy? I don't care, I'm leaving it in. He has 2 phases. The first phase has him using a jab and a left hook, then 2 jabs and a right hook. He'll do that for a bit, then we'll go to his second phase. He'll use jabs to throw you off, a 2-hook combo, and a fast uppercut. His uppercut is devastating because it is incredibly fast. The first phase is honestly incredibly easy, but the second phase forces you to have good reaction time. And if you don't, you're screwed. But if you can react to his attacks, then you'll beat him just like the last American to face the motherland.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are 2 of them.
Moving up into B tier, we have Piston Honda 2. Now yes, he has had some more time to bake, but he could have used a bit more. First off, he doesn't do his hook anymore unless you get winded, but that doesn't really matter. Instead of a regular jab, he does a triple jab, and he also has a new side-switching uppercut. Aside from that, he just does uppercuts over and over again. He also gives less stun. The big problem here is his Honda Rush. First off, instead of the rush going on forever until you block a certain amount of jabs, he just does 4. He always does 4. Second off, the window to get the instant knockdown is much smaller, but if you hit it, he goes down, and doesn't get back up. That's honestly the big problem here. Aside from that, he's a hard opponent, but being able to beat him in one punch makes him much easier than he could have been.
Come on, fight!
Title Defense Von Kaiser is a major step up from regular Von Kaiser. His uppercuts are now one-directional, which may not sound like a big deal, but he can now use them from both sides. He also has a fast jab with no counter window, but that's not all the new stuff he has, since when he gets up from a knockdown... This attack is an instant knockdown, and is one-directional. That said, it's not as hard to dodge as it looks. If it was, this guy would be much higher. That said, this guy has one other problem. He gives out a lot of stars. This game isn't shy on giving you stars, but in this fight in particular, you're just drowning in them. There's so many stars. And while the instant knockout is gone, the instant knockdown still exists. You just need to have 3 stars rather than 1.
Welcome, Whoopmaster Adam.
Title Defense Aaron is expanded upon brilliantly. He'll now counter your counters with either a headbutt, an elbow, or a delayed elbow. Aside from that, he really doesn't have any differences.
That is both Andy Creep and regular.
There is no way. Oh. Yeah, he brings a whole ass flail into the ring. He'll telegraph how he's gonna swing it by swinging the exact same way beforehand. You'll have to deal with the same 3 patterns: duck and dodge, duck duck dodge, and duck duck dodge dodge. It actually doesn't do as much damage as you expect. Finally, when you knock him down, he'll take one last swing with his weapon, but this is actually his greatest weakness. First off, the attack, it can't knock you down, and second off, if you counter it with a star, he goes down instantly, which drops the difficulty value a lot. He's still hard, but he could be a lot harder.
Cheese of truth! You will be bald forever.
Bald Bull is honestly very similar for the first little bit. His hooks aren't any faster, although he will throw a right hook occasionally. However, as soon as the bull charge comes out, you realize he isn't fucking around anymore. He'll throw in some fake outs and the charge is unparryable. After that, the fight goes downhill fast. He'll just keep using this stupid 4-jab combo which leaves him completely open and drains time on the clock. This fight starts off strong and just becomes annoying and irritating by the end, which makes every loss all the more heartbreaking. If I were to describe this fight in 3 words, those 3 words would be tedious, difficult, and... Soda Popinski is one of 2 fighters in this game who I think are just kinda overrated. Yeah, he's fast and he's a southpaw, but much like Sandman, he's hella cheesable. But first, attacks. He has 2 hooks, an uppercut, a jab with absolutely no startup or telegraphing, so it's basically a block check, and a triple jab he'll only do if you run out of hearts. The big thing everyone talks about is how, unlike every single other fighter, he's not telegraphed at all aside from his triple jab. He fights like a normal-ass boxer. That said, there's one weapon you have in your arsenal that makes Soda an absolute joke. Blocking. It means you could block his jabs and get stun off them. But you can't get stun off the hooks if you block them. Shut. He always follows up his first hook with another hook, so you can dodge that one, or better yet, parry it to get a star. But what about his uppercuts? You can't block uppercuts. Shut! Soda has a trick in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, where if you're blocking while he's doing an uppercut, he just kinda sits there, so you can either prepare to get out of the way, or hit him in the gut for a star. But you can only use a star punch on him once before he'll start dodging. Shut! Yes, he'll start dodging your star punches, but only if he has time. If you quick dodge his uppercuts, you get a special kind of stun where you start punching him faster. This gives you more time to smack him with a star punch. Yes, he only gets instantly knocked down by star punches once, but star punches still do a shit ton of damage. But what if you get winded? You're left completely defenseless. Shut! Remember how I said he only does his triple jab when you run out of stamina? Well, if you run out of stamina, you can wait for his triple jab, then dodge all his jabs, and by then you'll most likely get your stamina back. So yeah, blocking completely nullifies every single trick Soda has. And it's crazy how people don't talk about how useful blocking is in this fight. They just talk about the star trick. That said, due to how much faster his attacks are than most other fighters, he still takes 6th. I'm just trying to justify putting him this low when a lot of people say he's one of the hardest fights in the game.
Your life is nothing. You serve zero purpose. You should kill yourself now.
Don Flamenco 2. Another potential hot take, maybe? I don't know what the general consensus on this fight is difficulty-wise, but I do know it's less than favorable. People hate this fight, and for one reason. But first, he has actual attacks this time. He has a jab, a hook... Okay, now that his new attacks are out of the way, the main difficulty is his taunting phase, and that's because of an absolutely baffling design choice. He's not always guaranteed to counter, and that means you just have to keep punching and punching until he eventually gives in. Now, I don't think predicting his uppercuts is as hard as most people think, since if he's not gonna do an uppercut, he recoils, but if he is about to do an uppercut, he doesn't. That said, the thing that makes this fight hell is there's no possible way to drop the RNG to 0 except praying to RNGesus. Everyone hates this fight for a reason.
What? We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no!
I know this take is gonna give me a lot of hate. Now, don't get me wrong, Mr. Sandman is difficult when you don't know what you're doing. His main gimmick is when you hit him in the face, he'll block his face, so you'll need to punch his gut instead. His hooks and rolling jabs are really fast and strong, making them very difficult until you realize you can block both of them. But that's not even the biggest problem. The biggest problem is, much like his arcade appearance, a left jab leads him to counter, so you can just dodge the hook and get stun off of him. Oh, but the rolling jabs! You can just block those. Oh, but the Dreamland Express! Okay, that's a good point. The Dreamland Express is definitely the hardest part about Sandman. You are given no time to react. The only indication it's even gonna happen is he just sits there doing nothing for a few moments. That's honestly the thing that puts him in A tier. If it weren't for that, I consider a C tier placement, because that left jab trick absolutely ruins this fight. If it weren't for that trick, this fight would easily be an S tier and would be harder than Macho Man. But as it stands, he's definitely not harder than Macho Man. Can y'all stop saying that? I am so sick of hearing it. That is one of the stupidest things I have heard from this fucking community.
It's a bear!
Rounding out the B tier is Bear Hugger. This guy goes from a pathetic fight with one decent move to a devastating slugger. His main gimmick is he will rarely give you stun, and even if he does, it'll only be like 3 or 4 hits max. However, once you fill your super meter, you can clobber him. But wait, Kid Quick did the same thing, and he's down in D tier. Well, even though Kid Quick has a small stun window, if you do stun him, you can absolutely pummel him, especially with super punches. But that's not the case here. Even once you get your super meter filled, you need to use it responsibly, otherwise he's gonna take it, and fast. Oh, by the way, keep in mind his bear hug is still an instant knockdown. He is almost the most improved fighter in title defense, but Piston Hurricane and Dragon Chan exist. Oops, spoilers!
Wanna see a magic trick? Good. Abracadabra!
Great Tiger is not a great start to the A tier. His fight just kinda exists. He has a Hurricane Rush and a 4 uppercut combo, but that's it. The one thing I will say is he respawned with so little health, and combining that with his attacks being pretty fast, you get a basic A tier. Hopefully our next fight will be more interesting. The last thing I said should be ignored completely because this fight is boring. It's pretty much the exact same, and the only thing that puts it this high is the thing I was talking about with Class Joe. As you take damage, his attack speed accelerates, making it really bad if you get into a position where you need to anticipate rather than react. So why is he not higher? Just don't get into that situation in the first place, dude. If you're this far into the game, you should be able to not get into that situation. But the fact that that situation can happen in the first place puts it up here.
Mr. Sandman,
Yes?
bring us a dream.
The champion of the first game is here, and he's kinda easy. Now, to be fair, this game does actually get started in title defense, but this man is still pretty anticlimactic. The main export here is his devastating uppercuts, including a 3 uppercut combo. Does that sound familiar? The big problem here is a left jab leads him to counter, which will give you 3 hits of stun, and then you can do it again. Then you can do it again, and now you have a full super meter. Then you can do it again, except you hit him with a super. Then you can do it again, and oh, he's down. The one problem is he's not always consistent with whether he counters or not, but he's still pretty cheesable. Thankfully, his other fight, as well as the other champion, isn't as anticlimactic as Sandman.
Hurricane to White.
Piston is mostly the same, except his rush will never end unless you counter the hits, but after the rush ends, he just does the same thing as title defense Bald Bull. He just stalls out the clock. This is unbelievably irritating, and I hate it with a passion. It's so goddamn boring, and also very frustrating. While it's not hard for good reasons, it's still hard, so that puts it up here.
If a bull starts charging at you, most people would start running away.
Alright, now we have Bald Bull. Another potential hot take? Maybe? I'm not quite sure. Here, I think Bald Bull is a massive difficulty spike in Roadblock. If you haven't graduated from the Punch-Out Elementary that is just dodge and punish, you will not beat this fight. Bald Bull has some fast jabs, hooks, and uppercuts, especially compared to everyone before him. Not even a second into the fight, he slams you with a sucker punch. If he follows his 2 hooks up with a 3rd hook, he'll start bombarding you with uppercuts, and of course, the bull charge is devastating. This attack forces you to parry it, and if you can't parry it, well, you know what happens. Even better, the window to counter the charge is an oh so generous 6 frames! Everything about this fight is made to be a roadblock, and if you haven't learned the ins and outs of the game, you're not making it to the world circuit. Now, he does give you a lot of stars, but you can't use them more than once since he'll start dodging them. If you want to hit him with more stars, you'll need to time them so they counter his hooks. Bald Bull is a wall, but you want to know what's harder to beat than a wall?
Most people? What do you mean, most people? I don't think I know a single person who would just stand there while a bull is coming at them full speed.
Well, the answer is a reinforced wall, of course. His second fight is really only quality of life improvements. You can't counter his jabs, he leaves much less time between his attacks, his bull charge has an even tighter counter window, he has more health, less stun, and his attacks are stronger. That said, there is one big change. You can't knock him down unless you either star punch him or counter his bull charge. So why is he only one spot above Bald Bull 1? First off, he won't dodge star punches when stunned anymore. And second off, he has a taunt which gives you a star. I understand why they made these changes, but it means he can't go any higher.
Soup!
Super Macho Man. Let's get this out of the way. Attack-wise, he is the exact same as his NES incarnation. He has an uppercut, a hook, a single spin, and a clothesline. So he should be just as high as his NES incarnation, right? Nope. First off, his attacks don't do nearly as much damage, and he's also very reserved with all of his attacks except for his uppercuts, making him pretty easy. It doesn't help you can get stars off of all of his uppercuts if you know how. You can also instantly knock him down by smacking him with a star punch right after his clothesline. Overall, for a penultimate boss, he's pretty anticlimactic. His rematch fixes that though, right? Right? Here's another big hot take. In fact, it's probably gonna be the biggest hot take of this video. A lot of people say this fight is really hard, and I can kinda understand why, but I only ever really found Macho that hard the first time I fought him. All of his attacks are really only bad the first time. Case in point, the exercise program. Program A is a rush of 4 punches, Program B is a rush of 3 hooks, and Program C is a Dreamland Express. They're all devastating the first time you get hit by them, but once you know which program is which, you shouldn't have any trouble with them. The Macho Spin and Clothesline are also very easy to predict because Macho will just sit there for a while before throwing them. Yes, his attacks are fast, but his patterns are surprisingly simple for the World Circuit champion.
Is Invincible Colossus to end your career, no?
Vodka's title defense fight is pretty much the exact same, except he's faster. No, seriously, that's it. Okay, he's also stronger, but that applies to every title defense fight. That said, making Vodka's attacks faster makes him so much harder, especially with the uppercuts. Sometimes the simplest changes are all you need.
You know, I'm ready for a comeback. I am. I need this. King is back. Long live the king.
Title Defense King Hippo. First off, the manhole. You'll need to deal with his overheads, delayed jabs, and squash and slam to break the 3 rows of tape and get the cover off. After that, it's basic King Hippo. Oh yeah, the delayed jabs and squash and slam. The delayed jabs are exactly what they sound like, and he opens his mouth before doing them. When doing his Hippo Hug, he'll now follow it up with a slam that you need to dodge. And now for the main gimmick of this fight. King Hippo won't actually always open his mouth, and if you whiff the counter, he blocks and punishes you with a sucker punch. And while you can get stars off of his fake mouth openings, it's surprisingly hard to do. This is King Hippo fully realized, and is easily the hardest and best King Hippo fight in the series. Oh boy, Soda Pop. This fight is much harder than the NES version because blocking is now useless. His 3 attacks also cover all 3 dodge areas. His hook you can only duck and dodge right, his sidestep hook you can only duck and dodge left, and his uppercuts you can only dodge. His attacks are also not telegraphed in the slightest, meaning you basically have to anticipate. Ironically, the easiest part of his fight is Rage Mode, where he does a Dreamland Express. Yes, he does have a taunt where he heals, but it's easy to knock the Soda out of his hand, at least in this fight. Soda does have a very powerful arsenal, and it's used well, but it could be absolutely devastating if used better, which we will see way later.
This is bullshit!
Look at that, right after Soda is Bald Bull. Much like Honda and Macho, he's pretty much the exact same as the NES variant. The only difference is how he only uses his hooks from one side, at least for now. His bull charge is also much harder, at least in my opinion. But there's something missing. Didn't he have a gimmick where he was only able to be knocked down by a star punch? Where's that? I'm foreshadowing something, aren't I? Title Defense Great Tiger is, in my opinion, the fighter that changes the most between Contender and Title Defense. He'll now telegraph what he's gonna do by the jewel on his turban blinking different colors. Red means he jabs, green means he uses uppercuts from the right, and blue means he uses uppercuts from the left, and white means he does an ear clap. Well, that doesn't sound that bad, it actually sounds pretty manageable. Okay then, try having to deal with a combo. He'll occasionally make you memorize multiple colors and throw the adjacent attacks. He can throw anywhere from 3 to 5, I'm pretty sure, and if he throws 5, well, I hope you haven't been watching too much TikTok lately. And on top of that, he has a super move where he goes Super Saiyan and throws himself and a clone at you to try and throw you off. You have to dodge in the direction the real Great Tiger is coming from. Oh, he also does it multiple times, anywhere from 3 to 7, I want to say. Yes, I know there's an instant knockout trick if you counter all the hits, but that is incredibly difficult to do. Much like King Hippo, this is Great Tiger fully realized. Also unrelated, but those pants look hella comfy. Where did he get them? I want a pair of those.
Because tonight will be the night that I will fall for you over again.
Uh-oh, he's gone emo. Title Defense Daunt will make those very similar to his contender variant. The only new stuff he has is his infinite changing from hook, jab, to hook, jab, hook, jab. His Rose Flurry now uses hooks from both sides, and he can use up to 5. And he can now lead certain attacks into certain other attacks. That's all he has, but that's all he needs. He's still incredibly difficult.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Speaking of fights that barely change, all Piston Hondo has is a more complicated process to get stars off of his jabs and bow taunts, a stronger Hondo rush, delayed uppercuts, and a new side-switching uppercut, similar to his NES iteration. Now, that may make it sound like I'm harping on this fight, but rest assured, the delays on his uppercuts make him earn this spot on the list. The only reason I'm talking shit is because a lot of people would put this fight even higher, but I just don't agree.
No, I think he had one piece of advice, and then everything else he said is, don't give up. Chocolate.
Judging by what we're seeing here, I would not want to know what Prime Doc Lewis looks like. The main thing he has is a new hook and star punch, and a Soda Popinski style taunt where he'll pull out a chocolate bar and try to eat it. That said, if you counter the taunt...
I don't know what's wrong with it. I think that door is broken.
He now has a phase where he goes whole hog on you. Every attack he has does ridiculous damage, and you could just feel the impact of every single hit. That said, his attacks still aren't too difficult to dodge, and he gives you a lot of stars, but if you ever mess up, you'll take heavy punishment. Now, you may think, oh, I just won't counter the taunt. Well, that's kinda not an option. He'll always try to eat the chocolate bar at around half health. So you'll need to deal with full power Doc to win the fight, but dealing with full power Doc... oh boy. Hiki Kagero is probably the most unorthodox fighter in the whole game. His style is so odd and his patterns feel so unnatural, and that's not even mentioning his special attacks. His specials are very similar to Macho, except much faster. He has a rush of 4 punches finished off with an uppercut, and a double hook also finished off with an uppercut. And of course, his hair whip with And of course, his hair whip, which forces you to duck and dodge. How his hair is that strong is beyond me. Hey, Iki, you mind telling me your hardcore routine? For apparently wanting to steal the show, Mad Clown really likes making you the clown here. He has a chop that he can use on its own, or can chain it together with an uppercut. He also has an ear clap which heals him, and then he'll throw you to the side and smack you with an uppercut. Oh, is that not enough? Well then, try dealing with a projectile fighter. He'll throw 3 rounds of balls at you, ending off with an instant knockdown ear clap. And finally, when he gets up from his second knockdown, he'll throw dozens of jabs at you, throwing in some other attacks in between, including hooks, uppercuts, and chops. That said, a joke isn't funny when you know it's coming. You can block the jabs, or even parry them. In fact, you can parry most of his attacks, including the massive ear clap, which instantly knocks him down. Overall, if you can predict his comedy routine, you won't be the clown here. Hoi Corlo is easily the most unique fighter, not just in this game, but in the whole series. He brings a literal cane into the ring. Guess you could say that's some chicanery? Wait, don't click off the video. Anyways, attacks with his staff include a triple high jab, a double low jab, a single low jab, and a rush of 10 hits, either alternating 6 high and 4 low, or 2 low, 3 high, 2 low, 3 high. Other attacks include a palm strike, a backhand, and a leaping kick. He can also do a similar thing to Mad Clown, where he throws you across the ring and smacks you with a perfectly timed attack. The only difference being he can just decide to do this whenever he blocks a punch. And finally, he has an attack where he'll jump around the ring and try to smack you with his cane. But that's not all, because when you stun him, you need to hit him back and forth for whatever reason. This fight is beyond confusing. Hoi has a list of rules you need to follow when fighting him, and if you break the rules, he'll destroy your super meter with a flurry of hits. That said, one of the catchphrases of Punch-Out is "let's keep it clean," so take that to heart and use it. Wow, the penultimate boss is in second place? Who would have thought? Instead of using cheap tricks like Clown, Hiki, and Hoi, Rick Bruiser has gone with the classic Punch-Out strategy of punishing you when you mess up more than a strict parent. Their attacks are fast and strong, and he'll often lean into his attacks, forcing you to counter in the right direction or else it won't count. He also has a fast 3-hit combo. The 2 jabs aren't anything to bat an eye at, but it's the uppercut that's the problem. He even has an incredibly fast counter he uses when you either hit him while he's not in stun or when you hit him with a super. And while you can block it, don't go thinking this will be an Aaron Ryan situation. You can't counter this attack, meaning if you try, he's just gonna block and throw one of his main cheap shots. That leads into the main difficulty of this fight. While Rick is much more orthodox than half of the fighters you've faced thus far, he isn't above cheap tricks. While his uppercut isn't too bad on its own, he can sometimes lead it into an elbow, which is just as strong. Speaking of elbows, he can jump and elbow the floor, causing an entire earthquake like he's fucking queso. Oh, that doesn't sound too bad, I'll just dodge it. Oh, you poor innocent fool. No matter which way you dodge, you'll still be stunned. That said, wherever you are on the screen, make sure it's not where he can hit you, because otherwise he'll smack you with an instant knockdown uppercut. Oh, but wait, we're not done yet. You see, if he blocks a punch, he has the ability to break your hand with another elbow, which disables that hand. And that's kind of a problem considering what I just said about Rick leaning into his attacks. That said, you can dodge and punish, but if you thought that would be easy, think again because it's one-directional. Rick Bruiser is an absolute unit of a man, but unfortunately, he's the younger brother, so no matter what he does, he'll always be known as the lesser of the 2 brothers. Hey, younger sibling superiority, bro. You and me homies.
Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream.
The final boss of Contender Mode is no joke. He has fast and slow overheads, specifically designed to make you try to anticipate the overheads and dodge early when he delays an overhead. Same thing with the hooks. Ironically, his easiest attack is the Dreamland Express, mainly because it's actually telegraphed. That doesn't make it easy, since if you miss time dodging, you're losing at least a third of your HP. That said, this boss couldn't possibly get any harder, right? Right? Stay up, Mac! Yeah, there we go! Bro, do you know how rare it is to get the last stand in Contender Mode? Holy.
Oh, now you love me. Now you love Macho Man. Well, it's too late.
Title Defense Super Macho Man doesn't have many changes from Contender Mode. All he really has is new delayed uppercuts. Oh, by the way, here you go. In those files happened in like... Yes! He released the bogus! Yeah! Woo! The main reason he's this high is because his new clothesline is hell to dodge. You need to cycle your ducks perfectly. Otherwise, instant knockdown. While not even half as hard as the other title defense macho in the series, this fight is still very hard, mainly because of the clothesline. I've heard a lot of people say Super Macho Man is easier than Mr. Sandman, and I will never agree. Super Macho Man is pretty much the same as Soda Popitsky for the first little bit, except without the triple jab. But then after a little while, he just kinda stands there. The last time a fighter stood there doing nothing, he immediately smacked me with a special attack. And spoiler alert, this time is no different. This single macho spin is easily the hardest part of the fight, and yeah, I know this one guy with glasses will nod when he's about to do it, but that's really hard to see even if you do know it exists. This spin also does half your health, so it's absolutely devastating to get hit by. He also has the famous super macho clothesline where he'll spin wildly, and it's an instant knockdown if you get hit by 1. He can also do this infinitely. A lot of people think the spin count caps at 11, but that's absolutely not true. Also, his uppercuts do a whopping 25% of your health, and they're basic attacks. While not as devastating as Hippo's overheads, they balance it out by being much faster. He also has a lot of HP with basic attacks doing jack shit. Even star punches don't do much damage, but you can unload them on him when he's standing still charging up a single macho spin. The one thing about this fight that keeps it out of P tier is the fact that you don't need to duck under his spins, because if you did, this fight would be absolute hell, because you need to press the down button twice to do it. Here we have Title Defense Sandman. Much like Vodka, Sandman is just faster and harder, that's what she said. That said, this combined with the attack speed acceleration makes him pretty devastating, but the only reason he's not higher is just because the people above him are just better. Oh, and by the way, say goodbye to this game. We're not going to be seeing it again after this. Magic. Tiger is perfect to be right above Sandman because this fight basically combines several other fights. Sandman's 3 uppercut combo, Piston's 2 jab 1 hook combo, Bald Bull's jab combo, Pizza Pasta's 4 jab combo, as well as some of the combos from his previous fights, and the cheesableness of all the fights. Much like Sandman, if you hit him with a left jab, he'll counter. The thing is his counter uppercut is much slower, so you can hit him with another left jab in order to counter his uppercut, which can lead to the fight sometimes just looking like this. That said, this doesn't always work, considering he has another thing that all the original arcade fighters have. The exact same attack speed acceleration, which can be devastating. His attacks are also devastating, and since they all come in combos, you'll probably take multiple hits at a time, draining your super meter, which can be awful.
Here we go.
In Mac's Last Stand, you fight a randomly selected fighter over and over again until losing 3 times. And one of the potential fighters you could face isn't a fighter on the regular roster, but rather one King of Kongs, Donkey Kong. DK surprisingly isn't that bad for the first bit, basically being a more unorthodox Don Flamenco. He also has delays on his overhead clubs and an attack that you have to parry if you don't want to get smacked. Actually, DK is easy if you go for a decision win.
Kill.
Title Defense Bear Hugger. Oh god. Now, attack-wise, he has no new changes, but he has a new gimmick. He only gives 2 hits of stun for every attack, and the only way to get more is to use star punches. You get 6 hits for 1 star punch, 10 hits for 2 star punches, and an instant knockdown for 3. And this is where the fight splits into 2 branches. Either play it too safe and go to decision, or fish for counters and get absolutely destroyed. Either way, this fight is the farthest thing from easy, and is easily the most improved fighter from contender to title defense. Replace that hat with a crown. Good night! Fuck you!
I've been seeing a lot of confusion online about what an SMP is. You know, like the Minecraft thing. Obviously, it's an acronym, but I always see people get it wrong. It actually stands for Super Macho Man.
Unlike Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man, hailing from Los Angeles, California, USA, does deserve to be the champion, because he is ridiculously hard. All of his attacks are combos starting with 2 jabs, and he'll follow it up with either a left hook, an uppercut, or a single fast macho spin, or 2 instant knockdown spins. That's all he has, but that's all he needs. Granted, he doesn't have any RNG tricks, complicated attacks, or stalling, but what he does have is pure raw difficulty, and said difficulty comes from the reaction time you need to dodge his attacks. That said, I think the best strategy here is actually to use any hints or cues to anticipate what Macho is gonna do.
I kicked my doctor in the balls.
Dragon Chan is absolutely brutal. His gimmick of having to look for openings is still here, but it's much harder because if you whiff, he'll counter. Also, his kick forces you to react, but the opportunity is mere frames. Not just that, but he does a second kick! That said, the second one always comes out at the same time, so it's not as bad. Also, you respawn with so little health that one hit will knock you out. Not down, out. This fight is by far the biggest improvement from a contender fight, but only in difficulty because this fight is painfully unfun. That said, it is hard, and it definitely deserves to be at the top of S tier. Nick Bruiser, the champion of the special circuit. The best canon boxer in the Punch-Out universe, save for Mr. Dream. The pinnacle of boxing as a whole. Let's start from the very beginning. He starts the fight by smacking you with the fastest punches in the whole game, only telegraphed by him just freezing up. These punches also deal insane damage, with only 3 of them being enough to knock you down. After 6 of these, he'll realize it's not working, jump back, and destroy you with an instant knockdown elbow. Even if you can dodge this attack, don't get cocky, because he immediately throws 2 hooks, forcing you to duck. This attack is kinda similar to King Hippo's squash and slam, except in reverse. After that, he goes back to basics, throwing jabs, hooks, and uppercuts. That said, he still has some specials to screw you over. Aside from his elbow, he also has a double uppercut, forcing you to quick dodge twice. Not to mention, if you want to punish this guy with supers, good luck since he's more than prepared to dodge, or even block and break your hand just like Rick. That said, this is much worse on Nick than with Rick, because he has the Hoi Corlo gimmick of shuffling side to side when in stun. He can also break both of your hands, leaving you completely defenseless, much like Masked Muscle. And even when you're able to use your hands again, your normal punches won't do shit. He's easily the most durable fighter of the game, and because of that, he can beat you without even having to take you to the mat. Nick is the only fighter in the game that has a reasonable chance of timing you out, since the fights are only 1 round, and when the round ends, you lose automatically. But that said, none of this, and I mean none of it, holds a candle to his super move. The super move has him using 12 of those devastating punches he uses at the beginning, ending off with an uppercut that's just delayed enough to make you dodge too quickly. And no matter what you do, you will take damage. Wanna dodge? Well, if you haven't mastered quick dodging, you're fucked. Also make sure to count to 12, because otherwise you'll get smacked with an uppercut. Wanna block? Well, too bad, because even blocking makes you take chip damage. And even the chip damage is enough to knock you down. The best way to deal with this attack is to time a flurry perfectly to counter all of Nick's punches, but even that's not easy. Nick Bruiser is the culmination of every single fight in this game. The variety of Masked Muscle and Mad Clown, the defensive Bear Hugger and Narcissus Prince, the rush of Piston Hurricane and Aaron Ryan, the unorthodoxity of Bob Charlie, Dragon Chan, Hikikero, and Hoi Corlo, and the pure raw power of Bald Bull, Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man, and Rick Bruiser. That said, Nick may be a brute, but much like Title Defense Soda Pop, he's no Tyson. So if you can use your supers and flurries smartly and learn his attacks and patterns, you'll be able to really reinforce that he is, always has been, and always will be second place. Outpace, outsmart, outreact, and outbox this last opponent and take everything from him.
I'm in danger!
I genuinely think Mr. Sandman title defense is the easiest of the three big ones. He doesn't change that much outside of his wink uppercuts. Yes, he's stronger, gives less stun, doesn't do his boo taunt nearly as frequently, and does a faster Dreamland Express, but the main export is his wink uppercuts. See, they wanted to match the energy of Tyson, so they took his wink punches and his ball-busting uppercuts and combined them into one devastating attack. You need to dodge in the adjacent direction, or counter for a star if you're a mad lad. He also does a barrage of them in his final phase, but that kinda leads into the main problem with this fight. The reason he's the easiest of the big three is because he's the most consistent of the three, and the consistency is the single biggest deciding factor in an easiest to hardest ranking. If the other two fighters were as consistent as he was, he would be the hardest fight, no questions asked. That said, he's the only final boss in the series who's not the hardest fighter of his respective game. That said, I can completely understand someone disagreeing with that, but you gotta understand, this top three was unbelievably close.
I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Title Defense Bald Bull has three main changes. 1, he'll now use hooks from both sides. 2, he now has a long delayed jab. And of course, 3, the same gimmick he had in his second fight in Mike Tyson's, you can only knock him down with a star punch. But that's very difficult to do considering you need to deal with some of the most difficult and varied timings in the game. Good luck even getting a star, let alone keeping it. You also can't even knock him down by countering his bull charge, because while doing that does deplete his health bar and give you a star, it still doesn't knock him down. That said, it might as well. The one thing that keeps him away from the top spot is his nose rub taunt, because if you hit it with a 1-star, that's an instant knockdown, and if you hit it with a 3-star, that's an instant knockout. That said, good luck managing to get 3 stars to this point. It is incredibly hard to even get stars, let alone keep them. That said, much like Super Macho Man before him as second place, he was never gonna win. None of these guys were. That said, the one who did... Title Defense Soda Popinski. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, this man is drugged the fuck up. The main reason he's number 1 is because his attacks are fast. Not only that, but they get faster the more you knock him down, to the point where even people with the best reaction time would never be able to react. You are forced to either memorize his patterns or keep him in rage mode the whole time. Even his taunt gets faster, with him going from saying his classic "Dame Starovie" to just dropping it and laughing at you. This guy is easily on the podium of the hardest bosses in the franchise, because while you can get a lot of stun, getting said stun is nearly impossible. What do you mean there's a fucking achievement for it? I'll tell you, this gameplay may look difficult, but it's even harder when you play it. That said, matches with Soda are rarely close, and if you can beat him, consider yourself champion, because you've beaten the hardest boss in Punch-Out Wii. Get down!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event. Introducing in the red corner, the champion of the world.
Title Defense Super Macho Man. Now, not to be anticlimactic, but there's only a few changes. 1, he has a 2-hook combo. 2, his attacks are faster and stronger, obviously. 3, he can just dodge super punches sometimes. But this all pales in comparison to his new Infinispin. His clothesline requires you to cycle your ducks properly, but the thing is, his last spin will be faster than the rest, so you need to be prepared to react to that. Not just that, but the clock is still going. This attack does not stop the clock. The clock will not wait for you. Not only is this the hardest attack in the game to dodge, but the game spits in your face by forcing you to dodge it while watching the clock slowly drain away. And that's another thing, this guy will probably time you out several times, as he did to me, because he has a lot of health, and he has so much time control. Overall, this fight is gonna be a bloodbath, either for you or Macho, and unless you're prepared to be ready for anything, Macho will take his title back in seconds flat. But if you can duck and weave around his attacks, and counter with your strongest moves, he won't stand a chance. Kiss Death's scythe and hammer it into Macho that you're the champion now. And it's gonna stay that way.
Great fighting, you're an up-and-coming boxer.
That said, this fight was never gonna take first place. None of these guys were. You wanna know who did? Oh, who am I kidding? You already do. Nobody, and I mean nobody, should be surprised. Mike Tyson is in a tier of his own. He is the only fighter I've yet to beat without save states. So you know what? I did just that for this video. He starts the fight with his iconic dynamite uppercuts, and they pretty much carry the fight. Their fast are all instant knockdowns and only give you 2 hits of stun. This phase also lasts for 90 in-game seconds, and it is the most stressful 90 seconds ever. But if you can get past it, the fight goes from borderline impossible to just, oh god, please send help. His jabs are fast, but not nearly as fast as his uppercuts. Speaking of uppercuts, he'll randomly throw in some uppercuts, but they're not nearly as devastating as the dynamite uppercuts. At the beginning of round 2, he'll throw jabs at you until you get winded, forcing you to dodge his following attacks. He also has his own Honda Rush, but it's unironically the easiest attack of his to deal with. Honestly, if the dynamite uppercut phase didn't exist, this fight would be a low S tier, but because of that phase, this fight is a monster for 2 reasons. 1, just getting through the phase itself. 2, even if you do get past the phase, your hands are going to be shaking from the achievement, putting even more pressure on you to beat him and making every loss more devastating. And it's definitely the hardest boss on the NES, which is saying something. No, Mega Man doesn't count. I would also say it's one of the best final bosses on the NES, simply because of how much justice it does to Mike Tyson's style. It is perfectly conveyed in this fight. That said, he's not the protagonist. You are. So you have what it takes to beat him. It'll take a lot of time and maybe a few save states, but you'll get there eventually. That said, I didn't want to use save states. I wanted to beat him completely clean for the first time. So you know what? Here's my victory run. He's gonna do it again. I fucking hate that 2 jab combo. Or we're gonna have to win by TKO. But winning by TKO is not easy. I'm not sure how many KOs it takes to, like, make him stay down. I'm pretty sure it's 5. I could be wrong, though. I need 5,500 points, I'm pretty sure. Please. I can't win by decision. I can't. Oh, never mind! You know what they say. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's the ranking, but there's still one more ranking we've yet to do. Time to rank all the games from easiest to hardest. I'll be splitting up the arcade and Super Arcade just for the record. At number 5 is Super Punch-Out. Super Punch-Out isn't necessarily an easy game by any means. The fighters are unique, the patterns are difficult, and the attacks are devastating. That said, Super's Little Mac is just too powerful, trading in 20 HP for the ability to destroy each and every fighter in under 10 seconds. And at number 4, we have the original arcade. The arcade was the first game in the series, so they really didn't know what makes a difficult Punch-Out boss. The only real trick this game has is tying one arm behind your back, which, while not fun, is somewhat difficult, I suppose. At number 3 is Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Despite its notorious reputation, it's not as bad as people say. The first 7 fights are easy, and even some of the later bosses aren't too tough. Without Tyson, this game wouldn't be nearly as infamous. At number 2 is Wii. While the first half is incredibly easy, Title Defense ramps up the difficulty with some of the toughest and most notorious fighters in the series, giving you an absolute ballbuster of a challenge. And at number 1 is the Super Arcade. This game delivers some of the toughest battles in the series, packing a punch with 5 incredibly challenging fights and 5 incredibly challenging rematches. It features the hardest title defense mode, the most brutal Macho Man, the toughest first fight, the hardest non-Tyson opponent, and the most difficult game overall. Underrated and punchy, it's a must-play for any Punch-Out fan looking for a real test. And that is the list. Thank you all so much for watching. Punch-Out is genuinely my second favorite game series of all time. I absolutely love and adore everything about the series, from its quirky cast of characters to its ball-bustingly hard fights. It is a must-play for anyone who wants a legitimate challenge from Nintendo games. Hell, I would argue Mike Tyson is one of the hardest non-RPG bosses in any Nintendo game. These rankings have taken up most of my life for quite a while now, so I genuinely appreciate anyone who has managed to get to this point. Thanks for watching, champ. Hopefully we can do this again one day. Keep those gloves hung up, and that joystick smoking, and I will see y'all later. Goodbye.